Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward.
And I'm Melissa Ridgen, the first Indigenous member of Montreal's Executive Committee and Special Advisor on Reconciliation, announced that she's stepping down after her ancestry was called into question and criticized by a genealogist.
Mary Josie Parent has long advocated for the urban Indigenous population in Montreal. She was appointed to City Council in 2017 after claiming Acadian Mi'kmaq descent. However, ancestry records obtained by an independent researcher revealed no obvious Indigenous ancestry. Parent says these records do not align with the family's oral history, but has resigned amidst the fallout.
APTN is following this story and we'll have more for you later in the week. The Metis National Council President Clément Chartier has said in a letter to members that he will not seek re-election in April after 16 years at the helm. Chartier wrote, "I believe that during my 16 years as MNC President, the Metis Nation has made major strides forward. I am confident that the tremendous progress we have made with Canada will continue under new leadership." The letter goes on to say that he will concentrate on the new land rights action in Saskatchewan that will challenge the scrip system in federal court, and will continue to, quote, work on a number of international issues impacting the Métis Nation. It goes on to say until April 2020 election for national president, he has asked Vice President and head of the Manitoba Métis Federation, David Chartrand, to assume the lead role on national affairs and to serve as national spokesperson for MNC. We'll bring you more on that developing story too in the coming days.
The Government of Nunavut's computer network has been shut down since Saturday. They pulled the plug to protect themselves from a ransomware attack, where information on the network is encrypted and you have to pay a ransom to get it back. Our Kent Driscoll joins us from our Iqaluit studio. Kent, first things first, what does this mean for people waiting for any kind of payment from the Government of Nunavut?
Thanks. And yes, getting the finances back up and running is one of the Government of Nunavut's first priorities here. There are over 14,000 people in Nunavut who receive social assistance from the government. And as of right now, they're not getting their money. Instead, the government is giving them food vouchers until such a time as the system is back up and running. Now, then comes the Government of Nunavut employees, everything from deputy ministers to teachers. There's around 5,000 Government of Nunavut employees here in the territory. Now, the timing of the attack did give them a little bit of a break in trying to figure out how to get every one of those employees paid. The Government of Nunavut payday was last week on Friday. The shutdown came on Saturday, the day after payday. November 15th is the next scheduled Government of Nunavut payday, and that's a day that everyone in the territory here is looking toward. Now, the Government of Nunavut, they are the largest employer in the territory by far. So much so that if you didn't know when Government of Nunavut payday was, if you lived here, it wouldn't take you very long to figure it out. Just look at the long lines at all the retail outlets. You can physically see GN payday in Nunavut communities. If payroll isn't back online by November 15th, that's a blow that would be felt territory-wide. And then you have the vendors. Vendors are people who provide either goods or services to government. Now, on a note on Nunavut Tenders, that's a website for people looking to bid on government contracts, they said to expect a delay of up to 8 days. So that's the general timeline here. Things are still running fairly smoothly throughout the rest of government. Court is open, schools are open, and the education department is confident they'll be able to get report cards out on time. For health, telehealth is unavailable, but the health department is using paper records to help continue treatment for patients who are here in the territory. Over at corrections, they keep their inmate information on a different server, and so it seems that they've gotten off fairly unscathed. Now, that's the short term. The long term, that's going to be where some really interesting questions are going to be asked. MLAs in Nunavut are going to want to know if this was preventable. They're going to want to know who or what was responsible for this shutdown. They're going to want to know, why didn't the government just pay the ransom and get this over with? And most of all, they're going to want to make sure that this can never happen again. Back to you in Winnipeg.
We always want to hear what you think. Here's how you can continue the conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptn news. You can also follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. The Clément Nation near Prince George, British Columbia, unveiled their first new homes in the community in 15 years and cut a deal with the local university. Community leaders say that it's part of their efforts to take action in housing and education. APTN's Lee Wilson reports.
The chief of the Clément First Nation says positive changes are being made in housing, education, and economic development. The 415-member First Nation near Prince George has just unveiled the first of 6 new rental homes, the first built in the community in 15 years.
It's phenomenal. This is a big day. We've been in the planning stages for a couple of years now, previous chief and council, to make this happen. So we've taken the plans, the floor plans, to a level that I think the community is very happy with, and it's been over 15 years since we've actually had any new housing in the community.
Chief Poutney says the community housing dollars were frozen by the federal government, something due to bans behind on payments. Housing manager Wendy Jail says it took hard work to get off that list, but now that they are.
The community wanted to see positive things happen. They wanted to see things move forward. So this is our mandate. This is what we have to do.
Earlier in the fall, Clément and the University of Northern British Columbia signed an agreement that waived tuition for Clément members. The agreement also sets up supports for members who don't meet academic requirements but show potential.
And then that kind of started driving the force because we noticed a lot of our kids were falling through the cracks, and we had to start at the source. And another piece of that source is post-secondary. We didn't have many kids going, because it all ties into each other. We have to have kids graduate, and we have to have them move on to post-secondary to help drive essentially our future.
UNBC President Daniel Weeks says the agreement goes a long way towards reconciling the negative impacts of residential schools.
Really stems out of the Truth and Reconciliation recommendations, and Justice Sinclair really challenged Canadians and Canadian post-secondary institutions, universities and colleges to really take a leadership role in reconciliation and the importance of education in achieving that reconciliation.
Weeks hopes this agreement can be a catalyst for other universities to take action.
And really, I hope that UNBC can expand this program throughout the province. I hope that my colleagues, presidents of other universities and colleges in Canada, join us, and maybe we can make this program right across the nation. That would be fantastic.
Chief Poutney believes the steps with housing, education, and community building will help members find success.
So if they waive the tuition fees and we help on our end to make sure that the roof is paid for over their head and they have groceries, they'll succeed. We're trying to remove as many barriers as we can for success.
Currently, band leadership is in discussion with industries operating in Clément territory. The goal is to open up doors for the nation to thrive economically.
Moving forward for our nation means pretty much on all fronts. Like we're a mini government. We have our lands to look after. We have the stewardship piece, which we really haven't been a part of with industry. So we're working those bugs out right now.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Prince George, British Columbia.
Using elaborate hoaxes and pranks to get non-Indigenous people thinking about pipeline impacts was our topic on In Focus today. After the break, we'll have some highlights.
First, though, here's tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the east coast, showers and 10 for Halifax, 1 degree warmer with rain in St. John's. A rain-snow mix for Nain and a high of +4, 0 in showers for Cartwright. +5 in Montreal, -6 under sunny skies in Chibougamau. Sunny and 4 for Make That 3 and snow for Toronto, -2 in Sault Ste. Marie. -5 in Thunder Bay, -7 with snow for Sioux Lookout. -15 under sunny skies for Churchill, -8 in God's Lake and Norway House. 6 below with snow for Winnipeg, sunny and -9 in Brandon. -9 for Regina and Saskatoon, 5 below for Swift Current, -10 in Uranium City, 12 below in Stony Rapids. Welcome back. A 3-day conference on eliminating homelessness wrapped up in Edmonton. Thousands attended the event that included some big-name speakers. APTN's Chris Stewart was there.
The sold-out 2019 National Conference on Ending Homelessness saw 1,500 advocates and leaders from across the country put their ideas together in hopes of solving the problem of homelessness across Canada. The city of Edmonton was selected due to having reduced homelessness by 43% in the past decade. Dozens of seminars were held over the 3 days, ranging from topics like street outreach programs, housing for women at risk, and more. One theme was common. More work needs to be done for the youth. Like the Winnipeg-based organization Shawinam Obinoji. They help families by offering housing support and life skills training.
We really tried to focus on the circle of courage, which emphasizes the principles of generosity, belonging, mastery, and independence. It's a model that really encourages us to reframe some of the behaviors we might be seeing, or reframe some of what's going on in the youth's life, and understanding that in a more empathic way.
Hasey Owen told the seminar about how Shawinam changed her life.
There's even a school that they opened up for us, and I really like it because it's cultural based and we work on our own time. And due to my addictions, I have been kicked out of school, and with the help of Shawinam, I am back in school now, finishing up my grade 12.
Some big-name keynote speakers included Grand Chief Wilton Littlechild, Sheila Watt-Cloutier, and Cindy Blackstock. A full house listened as she talked about how Canada ranks worse than some third world countries when it comes to children.
Now, what about investments in kids? Well, we actually have an independent international ranking on that. Every year, a group called the Kids' Rights Foundation puts out a record of how well countries are doing for kids proportionate to their wealth. Now, this is for all children in Canada. Last year, we ranked 49th in the world.
Blackstock says the quickly rising rents due to online markets like Airbnb factors into homelessness, making renting unaffordable. She's hopeful for future generations if people and governments can work together.
I want to deputize every person in this room as someone who can do something for First Nations kids by implementing something called the Spirit Bear Plan, which is to eradicate all inequalities for First Nations children and their families. We did that, and in another few years, we may just have the foundation we need to raise a generation of First Nations kids whose memories of childhood are not overwhelmed by the day that they were removed or the day that their families couldn't afford to eat. We can create a better childhood for all of these kids.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
Pipelines can be a boring back and forth between corporate interests and activists that oppose them. But what happens when the issue is tackled using elaborate pranks and hoaxes on non-Indigenous people who are swindled into believing that they're being treated the same way as Indigenous people who don't want pipelines? That's the tack of the Indigenous Pipeline Council, who were in focus on today's In Focus. Here's some highlights.
When the shoe is on the other foot and a person allows themselves to believe in what we've created, there is these moments where they can go into this part where we can share in these experiences. And I'm hoping they were raised right so they know what empathy is. It's not a foreign emotion to them. Mm-hmm. And in that space, I really believe that some of them are like, oh, this is what it's like.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
What's the question again?
I'm sorry. You're getting aha moments.
Have you seen an aha moment in someone's face since you started with this?
I've seen some people get pretty upset. So that's kind of like a aha moment, but fortunately...
No, that's ha-ha.
But fortunately for them, they got to go back to it wasn't true, like the prank and Duluth, it wasn't real, so they, it didn't take... It only took a day or two for them to, figure that out. But but fortunately for them, they get to go back to their regularly scheduled programming and be safe. They don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about their water. They don't have to worry about their wild rice, their food. They don't have to,
I think it's like the inevitability. Like they could shut that off. For us, it's just inevitable.
Yeah.
That was, and again, I'm hoping the space of empathy and anger and rage really shows them something.
You can catch the full episode and see the video of the fake pipeline meeting they held tomorrow here on APTN at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, or you can go to aptnnews.ca and view it online.
And it's definitely worth viewing, especially all the calls from the Enbridge employees in Duluth. We'll check in on a homegrown documentary film festival coming up for you after the break.
And here's the rest of tomorrow's weather.
Picking back up in northern Alberta, 9 below with snow for high level, snow and -7 for Fort McMurray, +8 under sunny skies for Calgary, 7 above in Lethbridge. 11 under sunny skies for Vancouver and Campbell River, +6 for Kamloops, -4 with snow in Fort Nelson, +4 in snow in Prince George. 20 below for Old Crow and Rock River, 0 in Whitehorse. -8 with snow for Fort Liard, Trout Lake, and Yellowknife. 16 below with snow for Sax Harbor, -9 and snow for Colville Lake. -21 in Baker Lake, 24 below for Cambridge Bay. -18 in Arctic Bay, -6 for Cape Dorset.
Welcome back. The 11th annual documentary festival Gimme Some Truths is now underway in Winnipeg. Filmmakers and directors from around the world have submitted their works, but it's a homegrown 5-part documentary that kicked off the festival. Jolene Banning has more.
Over 100 years ago, the community of Shoal Lake 40 First Nation was forced off their land so water could be diverted to Winnipeg. Angelina McLeod is from Shoal Lake 40. She directed Freedom Road, the 5-part documentary series that shares her community's struggles and their resiliency.
Well, I just want people to realize and to take away from this screening what happens at the other end of the pipe in Shoal Lake First Nation, Shoal Lake 40, about the hardships everybody has been through for the benefit of Winnipeg and for Winnipeggers to have clean drinking water.
There was other people that lost their lives because of ice conditions. And now look at our Freedom Road.
Freedom Road opened the Gimme Some Truth documentary festival happening this week in Winnipeg. David Knipe is the festival programmer.
It was really a way to showcase the power of documentary as a unique medium and as an art form, and the capacity that documentary has to incite change and provoke thought and discussion.
Because of the forced relocation, Shoal Lake 40 was cut off from the mainland. To get in and out, members had to rely on a ferry to cross the lake. It broke down more often than not. In winter, they had to drive across an ice road, putting their lives in danger. Community member Nancy Rice recalls one of her experiences.
I almost went through. Yeah, that was a close call. I was with my grandson at that time, and he was yelling, "Get out, Grandma! Get out, Grandma!"
Yet, no matter the risk or danger, Nancy says she continued to navigate the ice road. Community members had no choice. There was no other way to get to the Trans-Canada Highway.
When we were filming, we had trouble actually crossing the ice, or even just crossing, because the barge was broken down. That happened to us once or twice.
In June 2019, the community celebrated the completion of Freedom Road. The new road meant no more ferry, no more ice road. Daryl Redsky is one of the band members who helped get things rolling. But now that the road is a reality, more work has to be done. The community still uses bottled water.
I think right now is just continue building. There's a lot of infrastructure that the community needs, housing for one thing, water lines, water services, just catching up to the rest of Canada.
I remember I used to see people, elders, used to check the ice over here. Then that's why I picked it up, take the measurement stick with me, and make sure it's safe for everybody to drive.
Freedom Road is available to stream for free now on the nfb.ca website and YouTube. Gimme Some Truth Film Festival runs now until November 10th at Cinematheque. Jolene Banning, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Really excited to see that. And there's a new exhibit opening Thursday at the National Gallery of Canada, which showcases Indigenous artists from around the world. Jamie Pashagumscum has the story.
It is what the National Art Gallery is calling the largest reoccurring Indigenous contemporary international art exhibition in the world. The new exhibit is called Abadakwene, from the Algonquin word meaning the fire continues to burn, or continuous fire. Greg Hill, the head curator of Indigenous art at the gallery, said consultation of Indigenous communities and elders was an essential part of the process.
I mean, this is Algonquin territory as well that we're on, unceded Algonquin territory, so we wanted very much to give pride of place, acknowledgement of place to the Algonquin community, to Algonquin language, by titling the exhibition with an Algonquin word.
Abadakwene is an international Indigenous exhibit with over 100 works representing approximately 40 Indigenous nations and ethnicities, including the Mata'aho Collective, featuring Maori women artists from New Zealand who work together to create large-scale installations.
We've been working together as Indigenous people since the beginning of time, so to kind of bring us all into a kind of institutional space together, I think is really powerful to show other people who are working together that they can come into these public, international, national spaces and represent.
Abadakwene consists of works and installations made through a variety of media, including photography, print, video, sculpture, textile, and beadwork. One of the goals of the museum through the exhibition was to provide an opportunity for the museum to expand its collection, but at the same time provide a space for Indigenous artists from around the world to connect. Artists like Lakulik Williamson Bathory, an Inuit performance artist from Iqaluit. Bathory's exhibition is a performance piece in collaboration with other Indigenous artists. Bathory says collaborations are an essential part of the artistic process.
Our work is by nature collaborative. There's the four of us that are creating something on equal terms together, and that's actually, it's very rooted in who we are as women and as Indigenous women, but it's also very new in terms of challenging the status quo and challenging patriarchy and things like that.
Bathory's performance art piece, titled Ikumagialit, Those That Need Fire, will be performed at the gallery's auditorium on Saturday, November 16th. The Abadakwene exhibit runs until April 5th, 2020. Jamie Pashagumscum, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Well, that's all the news we have for you this Wednesday.
If you missed anything, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. That's where you'll find the entire episode of today's In Focus with the satirical Indigenous Pipeline Council and the latest on Metis National Council President Clément Chartier stepping aside. I'm Dennis Ward.
And I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night.